chosen one. Before the breakthrough comes the battle, and the fiercest battle is not out there in the world, it's within. It begins long before you take a step toward your calling, before you stand to speak, before your voice is ever heard. It starts the moment you decide to rise. The very second you begin to prepare, something else prepares too, the system of doubt. The enemy of your purpose, the resistance that lives not just around you, but inside you, that's the war within. You see, most people never speak because they never silence the lies. They spend their entire lives rehearsing the voices that were never meant to be in them, voices that were planted, voices that were inherited, voices that were designed to sabotage destiny before it ever took root. And they sound like this: you're not ready, you're not smart enough, you're not anointed enough, you're going to fail, you missed your chance, someone else is better. No one will care. Sound familiar? These aren't just random doubts. They are systematic, engineered. They have a pattern. They always rise at the edge of obedience. The moment you get close to stepping out, here they come like a storm not of wind and rain, but of thoughts. But let me tell you something that the world won't say. Those thoughts aren't just natural. They are strategic. And they are not your thoughts. They are imposters, uninvited, deceivers. But if you let them speak long enough, you begin to agree with them. And once you agree, you surrender. Do you understand? The moment you agree with the lie, you hand your authority over to it. You give power to that which had none. The system is built to do that, to trick you into fighting yourself. That way, the enemy never even has to show up. You become your own cage. You are called to speak, to stand, to bring light. But how can you do that if the voice in your head is louder than the voice in your spirit? The war within is not about emotion. It's about identity. Who told you you weren't enough? Who convinced you that failure would define you? Who said your past had veto power over your purpose? You weren't born with that fear. You were taught it. Somewhere along the line, in a classroom, in a conversation, in a betrayal, in a moment of shame. You swallowed a lie, and now it lives like it owns the place. But it doesn't. It never did. Chosen one, the system has failed you because it was never built to raise you, only to restrain you. The world does not know what to do with a soul on fire. It cannot contain someone who has found truth. So instead, it plants seeds of confusion. It gives you mirrors that distort. It repeats messages that wear you down until you believe that your silence is safety. But you were never meant to be silent. Before you ever open your mouth, you must recognize the counterfeit voice. The one that sounds like reason but smells like fear. The one that wears the clothes of logic but is actually just a cloak for shame. You must be ruthless in this, because if you don't cast out that voice, it will sabotage your assignment. That voice is not your friend. It is not your protector. It is not keeping you humble. It's keeping you bound. And hear me, it's not about being perfect. You don't need perfect words. You don't need a perfect life. You just need truth. You just need to be honest enough to say, that thought is not mine. That fear is not mine. That doubt is not from the one who called me. And once you say that out loud, the power begins to break. When you speak truth to a lie, the lie begins to dissolve. The war within is real, but so is your authority, and if you can win in your mind, you will win in your mission. The enemy fears the moment you recognize that the only thing standing in your way was a thought. So before you stand before people, stand before yourself. Speak truth into the silence. Command the chaos to be still. Expose the voice for what it is, a system failure. Because once you silence the lie, you will hear the call more clearly than ever. And so, chosen one, now that you've begun to recognize the war within, you must come to terms with something deeper, something far more dangerous than fear itself. You've been trying to get healed by a broken system. For too long, you've gone to the world to fix what it didn't create. You've run to people, platforms, validation, applause, techniques, even religious formulas, hoping something would finally click, that somehow you'd be restored, renewed, made whole. But what if I told you the system was never designed to make you whole? It was designed to keep you hollow. The world gives you fragments, temporary relief, surface-level therapy, motivational noise, but deep inside, there's still that ache. That unrest, that unresolved wound, you've smiled through it, you've served through it, you've tried to shout over it. But it doesn't go away. Why? Because the system is broken, and worse, it never had the answer to begin with. You can't fix the soul with tools made for the flesh. You can't heal a spiritual wound with worldly medicine. That's why no amount of success, affirmation, or distraction satisfies you, because what's hurting in you is sacred. And sacred things don't get fixed by systems made of dust. They told you, just be more positive, think happy thoughts, post a quote, say a mantra, manifest it. But still, you woke up empty. You scrolled for hours and felt worse than before. You tried to speak boldly, but your voice cracked with self-doubt. You tried to write, but your hand trembled with fear. You tried to stand, but something in you felt like it would collapse. That's because you've been given bandages, not healing. The system wants to medicate what it cannot understand. It wants to tame you, not free you. It wants to manage your pain, not deliver you from it. But listen closely. You were never called to be managed. You were called to be transformed, and that transformation doesn't come through imitation. It comes through separation, a radical departure from the system that failed you. The system that said you had to earn your worth, that you had to be flawless before you were called, that your past disqualified you, that your struggle was evidence you were unfit. The system lies, and too many have believed it. It says, hide your weakness, when your weakness is exactly where the glory begins. It says, wait until you're whole, when obedience is often the doorway to wholeness. It says, speak only when you're perfect, when perfection was never the requirement, but faithfulness was. The system taught you that the broken are discarded, but heaven calls the broken qualified. The world tells you your scars disqualify you, but the scars are where the light gets in. Your voice doesn't come from the place you had it all together. It comes from the place you were broken and still stood, still spoke, still believed, chosen one. If you wait for the world to affirm your voice, you'll be silent forever. If you wait for the system to fix you, you'll stay stuck. It can't heal you because it doesn't know what wholeness even looks like. It doesn't know the blueprint of your soul. It doesn't know the fire that was placed in your bones before you were born. You weren't made by the system, so stop seeking your restoration in it. It doesn't matter who rejected you, overlooked you, criticized you, or passed you by. None of those people hold the map to your purpose. None of them saw the vision that was whispered to your spirit in the quiet place. They didn't see you weep on your knees when no one else was watching. They didn't feel the fire you carry, the fire that won't die, no matter how many times you've tried to bury it. That fire didn't come from the world, and it cannot be extinguished by it. So stop giving the system power it doesn't deserve. Stop asking for permission from people who never had the authority to begin with. Stop trying to be enough for a world that doesn't even know what enough means. You were chosen, you were sent. You were called out of the system so you could become the voice that exposes it. And if you feel like you don't fit good, that means you're not supposed to. If you feel like everything around you is breaking, even better. That means what wasn't built to last is falling away, and what remains is real, so let it fall. Let the system fail. Because once the illusion collapses, only the truth will be left standing. There are moments in life that pass like ordinary days, quiet, uneventful, easily forgotten. But then, there are moments that mark you, moments that shift the atmosphere, moments that aren't just dates on a calendar, but appointments in the spirit. Chosen one, June 22 is not just a day, it's a threshold, it's a line drawn in time, and on the other side of that line is change. You've been sensing it, haven't you? That pull, that stirring, that weight in your chest that says, something is coming. You can't explain it in natural terms because it's not natural. It's spiritual, it's prophetic, it's divine. There are certain moments when heaven opens a window, and in those moments, you're not just invited, you're summoned. Called up, pulled into alignment, but here's the truth no one talks about. Most people miss their moment, not because they're unworthy, but because they're unprepared. You don't prepare on the day of the calling. You prepare before the trumpet sounds. You don't wait until the battle starts to train. You prepare in the silence, in the hidden place, in the discomfort, in the stretching. June 22 is not the beginning, it's the revealing. And this is the time of preparation. Don't think preparation means polishing yourself until you're flawless. That's what the system told you, that preparation means perfection. No, true preparation means surrender. It means letting go of the weights that you've carried too long, the shame, the regret, the fear, the voices, the masks. It means cleaning the lens of your spirit so you can see clearly when the moment comes. Because when the divine moment arrives, it won't wait for you to get ready. And you must be ready. Heaven is not concerned with how many followers you have, how eloquent you sound, or how many accomplishments you've gathered. Heaven is asking, can I trust you with this moment? Can I trust you to speak when no one else will? To rise when others shrink back? To carry a word that may shake foundations? June 22 will be a crossroads for many. Some will choose comfort, others will choose calling. One leads to familiarity, the other to fire. But here's the truth. Fire doesn't come without friction. The calling never shows up without a confrontation. You will confront fear. You will confront delay. You will confront parts of yourself that you didn't even know were still broken. Because the closer you get to the moment, the more the pressure builds. That pressure isn't punishment, it's preparation. Diamonds don't form in safety. Oil doesn't pour without crushing. And voices of truth don't rise without a fight. So if you feel the press, if the nights are getting longer, if the silence is growing heavier, if you feel like everything around you is testing you, it's because you're approaching the threshold. You're not being punished, you're being forged. Some are distracted, lost in noise, consumed by timelines, algorithms, routines. But not you, you feel it. That sense that what's coming is bigger than a post, a platform, a plan. It's destiny. And destiny requires devotion. It's not about predicting what will happen on June 22. It's about who you will be when it comes. Will you be awake? Will you be clear? Will you be ready to speak what others are too afraid to say? Chosen one, there will be a moment when the door opens, when the light hits the path, when the still, small voice inside you says, now. And in that moment, your preparation will speak for you. Not your words, not your resume, your preparation, your obedience, your faithfulness in the unseen hours, that will be your power. Because when heaven calls, there's no time to go back and fix what you ignored. The time is now, so use these days wisely. Fast if you must, weep if you must, cut ties if you must, shed what must be shed, lay it all down, because what's coming will require all of you. And when the day arrives, when the wind shifts and the silence breaks, you will not be caught off guard. You will not tremble. You will not retreat. You will rise, because what's waiting for you on the other side of June 22 is the reason you were chosen. Chosen one, we've talked about the war within. We've exposed the failure of the system. We've stood at the edge of the moment to come. But now comes the part that determines everything, what you do with all of it. Because no matter how loud the call, no matter how powerful the purpose, if you don't rise above the weight of negative feelings, you won't take the step. You won't speak, you won't move, you won't become, not because you weren't chosen, but because you never overrode the lie. The truth is, the call of destiny is not a quiet thing. It shakes you, it convicts you, it stirs you at the oddest hours and awakens something deeper than inspiration. It awakens identity. And when identity is awakened, the attack always follows, not with fire and lightning from the outside, but with whispers from the inside. You're still broken. You're still angry. You're not healed enough yet. You'll mess it up like last time. Why would God use someone like you? Do you hear it? That tone, it never accuses the casual. It accuses the called. Because the enemy doesn't waste lies on people who are not a threat. So those thoughts, those feelings of worthlessness, fear, comparison, despair, they are not evidence that you're disqualified. They are evidence that something holy is stirring inside you, and something unholy is terrified of it. But here's what you must remember. Those feelings are real, but they are not true. You can feel something deeply and still stand in truth. You can feel fear and still obey. You can feel unworthy and still step forward, because truth isn't built on feeling, it's built on fact. Divine fact, unshakable eternal blood, bought fact, and truth says this: you are called, you are equipped. You are redeemed, you are sent. But in order for that truth to have power in your life, you must override the old programming. You must confront the emotional residue that clings to your calling like static and speak truth over it, not from a place of ego, but from a place of agreement. The override doesn't come by denying the feeling, it comes by confronting it. By saying, yes, I feel afraid, but fear doesn't own me. Yes, I've failed, but failure isn't my name. Yes, I'm weak, but His strength is made perfect in weakness. That is how you override, and let me tell you, the greatest breakthroughs don't come when you feel powerful. They come when you feel broken but move anyway, when you feel empty but still pour out, when the voice of fear is screaming, and you whisper back, I'm still going. You must learn to walk through the storm of feelings and hold the hand of truth, because the truth does not shift like sand. It is not swayed by moods or shadows or public opinion. It stands, it waits, it holds, it endures. And when you speak, it's not your strength that carries the words, it's the truth inside them. You don't need to wait for your feelings to line up before you move. Waiting for feelings to agree is the fast track to spiritual paralysis. You move and the feelings follow, you speak and the fear breaks, you act and heaven backs you up. That's the divine override. It's the moment when you step past the voice in your head and obey the voice in your spirit. It's when obedience becomes louder than insecurity, when truth outweighs trauma, when destiny outweighs delay. Some of you have been waiting for the perfect moment when all your emotions will finally submit and your soul will feel aligned like a sunrise over still water. But hear me, that moment isn't coming, because this isn't about emotional perfection. This is about spiritual obedience. The override happens the moment you decide the call is greater than the conflict. It happens when you wake up and say, I don't need to feel ready to be ready. I don't need to feel worthy to be chosen. I don't need to feel strong to be sent. Because when you speak with truth, truth does the work. And what begins as a whisper of courage becomes a roar of freedom, not just for you, but for every person who will hear your voice and realize they too were lied to. They too were called. They too were chosen. So don't let a feeling rob you of a future. Don't let a whisper of doubt drown out the sound of heaven. Don't let a temporary emotion steal an eternal assignment. Because when you override the lie with truth, everything changes.